to speak about something that I haven't spoken about before, partly because when I was at the REC, it was most probably too difficult a subject. So the relationship I'm going to be talking about is the relationship between talent attraction, talent acquisition in the corporates and recruitment agencies. And I think my title says it all, and that is, let's not pretend the relationship is working. Like any great relationship, if you think about relationship with your partner or family, friends, or sometimes they go through a difficult period. And I think for the last few years, the relationship between clients and recruitment agencies has been going backwards. So I want to start off by getting you to think about this. This is one of my favourite books. It's written by a recruiter. She's North American. Her name's Mary B. Lucas. And it's about her early career in recruitment. And her father ran a butcher's. And that's why the book's called Lunch, Meat and Life Lessons, Sharing a Butcher's Wisdom. Anyhow, she gets her first management job. She's running a branch. And she's got a client that accounts for 60% of her revenue. But this woman is incredibly difficult. She's rude to her staff. She's always rejecting candidates without giving feedback. She occasionally shouts at the staff on Friday afternoons when people haven't turned up. And no one in the office wants to take her calls. So Mary, being a young, inexperienced manager, goes to talk to her father. And her father says to her, "What's the like? What do you like about this woman?" And she can't think of anything. And he says, if you want to build a relationship, you've got to start off by finding some common values, things that you both, things that you share. And if you think about any relationship, that's often how they start. You want to get to know someone. You ask lots of questions. You understand them. They then understand you. And that's the starting point for any great relationship. So I think that's where we are. We've lost the like. We're not sure we like each other. And if you really start to think about why is this important, what's going on in our jobs market at the moment? I think we've got a perfect storm brewing. You know, we have a very successful labour market in the UK. We've got record employment, more people working today than ever before. We've got incredibly low unemployment. You know, it's at its lowest point since 1975. So we've got the most successful labour market we've had for 40 years. But it's throwing up some real challenges for employers. Real challenges. CBI survey last month, 56% of UK employers said, "I cannot fill the jobs I've currently got available. I have labour, skill, and talent shortages." 3 different things. But I'm struggling to fill jobs where I just need someone that's got the drive to come in and do a low-paid job. I'm looking for skill. It may be digital, maybe engineering, maybe nurses, doctors, drivers. We have skill shortages right across the UK. Or it may be I'm looking for talent. I'm looking for the people that can add real value. They've got the skill, but they have the ability to help my business succeed. So employers today are struggling to find labour, skill and talent. And if you talk to chief execs, as PwC did last month, 80% of global chief executives said their #1 issue, talent. Finding, attracting, recruiting, retaining talent. Miles more important than customer or the economy. Actually, the differentiator in my business is, can I find the talent? Can I find more talent, better talent, stronger talent than my competitors? So what we have at the moment is an incredibly tight labour market where businesses are struggling to fill their jobs they have available. But actually, it's going to get worse. In the next 4 to 5 years, we've got an ageing population. We've got less people of working age in the labour market in the next 10 years than we have today. So there's going to be less people available. We've got issues around flexibility. You look at the growth of self-employment, freelancing, contracting, interim directors. Most organisations are recognising that their biggest competitor in terms of retaining their middle managers and their professionals is people going off to do it for themselves. So flexibility is potentially going to make it even more difficult as you leave your mid-career professionals and managers as they go off to get work-life balance, or so they think, and the ability to earn more than they did in their current job. So we have less people of working age, the ability for your managers and professionals to exit your organisation, and then we come to millennials, or, you know, we can talk about Z generation or the Y generation, but young people who have a very different attitude to work. And if you look at the data, Accenture did a great study. 17% of young people, 16 to 21-year-olds, said that they wanted to be self-employed, run their own organisation. They did it 10 years later, 2001. They did it in 2011. So I'm talking about data that's 7 years old. 83% of young people said, I want to run my own business, be self-employed, be an entrepreneur. So at the moment, employers are taking on young people like it's going out of fashion. Graduate schemes, apprenticeship schemes, trying to spend the levy. But at the back of that young talent's mind is, how do I suck up the skills? How do I get all the learning? And then how do I go out and do my own thing at some point in the next 5 to 10 years? So if you start to think about the tight labour market today, which is going to get even tighter because we've got less people of working age, people opting out, and young people choosing to come out of full-time employment as well. And then finally, we have that wonderful self-inflicted wound from 2 and a bit years ago of Brexit. And if you looked at the data yesterday, we're losing more and more European talent and skills. And it operates across the whole of the UK labour market. 8 or 9%, 2.3 million people in the UK come from the EU. And it's not just at the front of our labour market. 37% of our academics come from Europe. 14% of all of our NHS staff come from Europe. And I can go on and on and on about every sector. So we are moving from a difficult labour market to a full-blown crisis. So the reason why I'm going to talk to you about the relationship, about talent attraction and recruiters, is because we need to do things differently. We need to innovate. We need to be better at candidate experience. We really need to think about how we present our employer propositions to the marketplace. And if we carry on with the adversarial relationship, are we really able to work in true partnership? I don't think we can. So what I want to talk about is how do you develop a real collaboration between client and agency. So I thought I'd start off with a really positive picture. And I started to think about game theory. And I sort of thought, well, you know, the whole prisoner's dilemma, which is if you behave in the same way, you end up going down a vicious cycle. If you don't build trust, and I suppose the classic example of that was the Cold War, where we had North America and Europe v. Russia, where both sides weren't listening to each other, they didn't trust each other, and we spent more and more on armaments, even though we had no view or no likelihood that we'd ever use them. And I think the relationships between agencies and employers is a bit like that. I think we're in a zero-sum game. I think clients are going to continue to drive down margins. They're going to see it as a transaction. I don't think they're going to invest in agencies to represent their employer brand. So if we want to get out of this zero-sum game, we really need to behave differently. I suppose it starts with how we think about each other. And I run the Good Recruitment campaign, so I spent a lot of time over the last few years talking to employers. And I say, tell me about agencies, what do you think of them? And they are saying, well, they're all a bit sharp. That's them being polite. They often will talk about gelled hair and being hassled on the phone and always looking for the gig and not really being caring about ethics or values. So they start off and I say, describe them. You know, give me an example of what you mean. And the film they always mention is this one. And, you know, it's the, you know, their view is it's poor behaviour. They're not professional. They're not people that are worthy of building a long-term relationship. And then I go and talk to the agencies and say, what do you think of clients? They go, well, they never give us the feedback. The only thing they're interested in the price of what we do. They don't value what we do on their behalf. They don't understand how hard it is to attract talent and skills to their organisation. So what we have is a relationship where even when you just start at the basics about how you talk about each other, you know as well as I do. You meet a friend and they've got problems in their relationship and you go, what's going on? And if the language is all negative and everything they do is wrong, then it's going to be a long way back. And that's where we are. That's why we need a new language, a new way of being, a new way of operating together. And this, I think, is the starting point, okay? When you start a relationship, when you engage someone for the first time, what we tend to do is drop immediately into form. What's the price? How long is it going to take? What's your process going to be? How quickly can you get me some candidates? Just tell me about the content. And essence is about, tell me about you. Tell me a bit about your organisation. Tell me about your values. I'll tell you a bit about our organisation. So I think what we do is we go straight to form without establishing a relationship at the beginning. And what that means is we get judged on the transactional business nature of the relationship. That's the only thing that we've got to hang on to because we don't know the other party. Our view of them is negative. So, if you know, I went back to my HR days, I thought, well, what is this about? And I got into, I thought, well, actually, this is about transactional analysis. This is about real deep-seated, how do relationships build? And this is the theory of transactional analysis. Great relationships are always, I'm okay, you're okay. If it's I'm okay and you're not okay, it's really tough to be able to deliver things together. And if we can get to the stage where we're at that top of that cycle, where we both understand, recognise each other's strengths and weaknesses, work in partnership, then you can have a much more fruitful relationship that delivers value for both parties. And I suppose that's where I want to end up. I want to talk about 5 things, and then I'm going to end up with my quote from Abraham Lincoln. So the 5 things I think we need to do differently in terms of forming a relationship between agencies and their clients, or clients and their agencies. The one is you've got to have a bit of humility. I think we've got to recognise we need to do things differently. We have to innovate. So I think we need to start off by saying none of us have got the answers, but absolutely, if we work together, we most probably can create the answers. Secondly, we've got to spend a bit of time, particularly at the beginning of a relationship, getting to know one another, understanding where they come from. And I think the other thing is we need to move beyond shared goals. What we're going to do, find us 10 of those, give us a great shortlist, help us find 50 people to do this job next week, into some shared values as well. So goals and values together are much more powerful. We need to think about investment and return, not just cost. If you see what you're spending as a way of investing in your talent pipelines, creating value, bringing skills, talent and capability to your organisation, I think you're starting on the right stretch. And then finally, you need to learn together because it's not always going to go well. But if you've got a positive relationship, it will be about learning. If you've got a relationship where you haven't got I'm okay, you're okay, what it's about is blame. I'm okay, you've mucked up. You've not done what you said you were going to do. And that type of relationship doesn't get us anywhere. So as Abraham Lincoln said, I don't like that man. I must get to know him better. And I think that's what we have to do both agencies and employers work to find the like, get to know each other, create value for both parties, improve your brand, improve your candidate experience, and actually differentiate your offering in the marketplace. Thank you very much.